So you've decided to join a gym. Congratulations. That's the first step to a better you, moving forward and becoming a better person, a healthier person, working towards a better future. So great job. Now, joining a gym can be very intimidating, especially if you've never been involved in a gym. It can be a lot to take on. So today I'm going to talk about how I got started and how I feel is the best way for you to get started. I started lifting when I was 18 years old. I was in college, and it started as I was literally bored, and I didn't know anybody, and I was like, I'm gonna join a gym, try to lose some weight. So I joined a gym called Fitness 19. It was in White Bear Lake, Minnesota, and honestly, it changed my life forever. I've now been training for 18 years. Over 18 years, I've been lifting, and I will say, whenever I started, I had no intentions. I had no, there was no goals, there was no nothing. I just went, and I just kind of went with the flow. I had no thoughts. I had no preconceived um, opinions on anything, which honestly was there was kind of a beautiful thing about that because have I didn't know what to expect. But for my personal experience, I will say that it probably took me a year to be completely confident in the gym and confident in what I was doing there. And it was definitely a process. So when you first start out, you're going to look silly. People are going to possibly look at you, especially being in a chair. And some of this, I'm going to kind of go in and out of this as far as from a disabled person standpoint. When you're in a chair, you get used to people staring at you, which honestly I don't even really notice it anymore. The last time I noticed it was when I was with a friend. He pointed out to him, he's like, dude, everywhere you go people look at you. And I was like, oh, i, I guess they do. Like, I kind of forgot about it. I mean, I've been paralyzed for over 35 years now, so it's just part of my life. I don't even notice it. But for people that are not used to it, they pick up on it immediately when they spend time with me. So, as a wheelchair user, you're definitely going to get looks. You're definitely going to get people looking at you and staring at you, and you're going to feel in the way. And sometimes you may be in the way, but also you have every right to be there just like anyone else. And you're just going to have to deal with that and understand that you're going to have to get over that. And you're going to have to get used to it and accept that sometimes you're just going to be in the way. You have every right to be in the way, to be there to do what everybody else is there to do. So don't lose sight of that. And it's going to take time. It's going to take probably a lot of self talk, to be honest. But don't let that hold you back from going and bettering yourself. And I think that applies to people that are able bodied as well. I recently, it was probably a month ago, I had one of my cousins reached out and was talking about going to a gym. And basically, what I told her the same thing I'm saying right now is, people are gonna look. You're gonna look like you don't know what you're doing because you don't know what you're doing, and that's okay because we all start there. No one started out perfect at it, but the people that remember where they started will understand that they were there at one point as well. So don't worry about what others think. And I know that's easier said than done, but you're there to better yourself. You're not there for anybody else but yourself. And you have to remember that. And honestly, go into it excited. Go into it with an open mind because it could change your life. Because I know it's changed my life and it could change your life too. And you never know what you can make of it. For me, it started out as me losing weight, and it turned into I powerlifted for 10 years and I traveled the country and I set 3 world records all from I was bored one day and I decided to go to the gym. And it's turned into going to the gym and then biking and using a ski machine. And then it turned into me playing sled hockey. And that all started in reality was because I went to the gym and I became a motivated person, somebody that wanted to push myself and push the boundaries, my limits. And that all started because I decided to go to a gym. So go into it with an open mind because you never know what might happen. Who knows? Fast forward 2 years from now, maybe you'll be doing a marathon. So embrace the journey of it and be an open-minded person. And honestly, um, be open to people wanting to help you. Obviously, they're not all help is good, but don't go in with a stuck up mindset because I met a lot of cool people in the gym. There was a man that I met at the gym when I was in Minnesota. He was 79 years old, and that dude could go rep for rep with me. And some of the best wisdom I've gotten came from him. And a lot of the advice that I've learned over the years have come from my training partners, older guys that have been there, and not just about the gym, but also life lessons and, um, how to navigate life. So I just feel that there are so many benefits to it that you just have to really pay attention and listen, because if you're willing to listen, you'd be surprised what you're willing to get out of it. But for me, go to the gym, but have a plan. Why do I want to go? Am I there to lose weight? Am I there just to get healthier? Is it just to pass some time, or maybe set yourself a goal? Do I want to work on my mile? How fast I can run a mile? Or maybe it's on the row machine. But try to go in with a plan, because if you go in there with a plan, you won't go in like I did. I went in just mindlessly lifting weights to the point that it reached a point that it was like almost an obsession, and mixed with boredom, that I was lifting for upwards of 3 hours a day, just doing random stuff. I had no idea what I was doing. And I would have made so much more progress in the beginning if I would have went into the gym with a plan of, why I'm here, what am I doing, and what direction I want to take this. Now, granted, I did lose a lot of weight within the first year, so but I just feel that there would have been a better way to handle that. And there's going to be people around you. Like some of the staff at the gyms have been there to help me as well. There was a guy that when I was at the gym in Minnesota, he'd give me pointers, and don't be afraid to take those pointers because it can really help. It helped me a lot of like my pressing. And for a wheelchair user, you're going to run into a lot of issues in a gym. You're going to feel like you're in the way. That is the biggest thing. As wheelchair users, we already feel like we're always in somebody's way. Well, the way I always joke about it is we almost feel like we're like a dog. Like, like when you're in the kitchen and your dog's like under your feet, like you're trying to cook and the dog's like right there waiting for something to drop. Like that's how you feel. Like you feel like that dog in the kitchen that's always in the way, and like you got to get everybody out of everybody else's way. But in a gym, you really feel that because it's already a confined space. It can be a tight space. Um, but that's something that you really have to get used to, and you have to accept and tell yourself that I'm here and I deserve to use a space just like anyone else. And that's going to take time to get used to. I know it took me time. It took me time outside of the gym. So it definitely took time for me in the gym to be okay with being in the way. But um, it's also going to take a lot of brainstorming. as a wheelchair user, if you're obviously not every wheelchair user is capable of transferring, but if you are capable of transferring, you're going to get a lot more out of your workouts because the gym is not meant for people of serious physical disabilities. It is not meant for wheelchair users. All the equipment you have to transfer. There's only been, I would say, a few machines that I've ever used that I haven't had to transfer completely. Like some of the lat pull downs, some of the cable machines, and there are hand cycles sometimes, which is a very rare thing to find in a gym. There was a LA Fitness that I trained at when I was in Minnesota that actually had hand bikes, and I was one of the rare occasions where I could actually wheel right up to it, not have to get out of my chair, which was really cool. And I really liked that they were inclusive to folks of, my situation. But if you're physically capable of transferring, I definitely recommend transferring because you're going to get a lot more out of your workout. Some of the tools that I use straps like uh, elastic bands. I tie my legs together. Depending on what the exercise is, I use it for pull ups, chin ups, dips. You might have to get creative, like depending on what gym I go to. I've had to use two benches, or I've had to use a standing curl station to use to be able to do dips out of. And then, like for do chin ups, pull ups, I prefer using a Smith machine bar. I put the Smith machine bar up as high as I can reach it, or I will, if it's just like a normal bar, I will put the barbell up as high as I can and I will do my work off of that. But you got to get real creative as a wheelchair user, and things aren't always going to go as planned. You're going to probably end up having some situations. I have, over the years, I have fallen so many times. My chair has rolled away from me. I have tipped over with me in the chair. I have missed my chair coming back down. Dumbbells have fallen. At one point, I almost fell off a bench with 360 pounds above me. That was not my fault. That was somebody else's fault because I forgot to put the strap that I had around me. But I also use a belt to support me. I tie the belt around me. I've used ratchet straps before. Basically, I have no core, so I cannot balance myself. And since my legs don't work, I cannot balance myself with my feet. So if I'm doing a variation of press, whether it be a shoulder press or depending on my chest exercises, most of my chest stuff I can do without a belt. I can bench without a belt depending on how wide the bench is. If the bench is real narrow, I almost all the time will use a belt just to eliminate the risk of falling off. Um, if it's a slippery bench, you're gonna slide a lot easier. So, I definitely recommend using either a weight belt or a Velcro strap if you have one. Or I actually used to make all my straps. I have an orthotics background. I grew up knowing how to sew. I've made a lot of straps for myself over the years. Different variations, whether it be a strap that goes all the way around and laps back over itself, or a strap that has a buckle and comes back, or like I said, using a ratchet strap. But these are some of the tools that I've used that make things a lot easier for me and makes it a lot quicker. I'm able to do a lot different variations instead of just using machines. Or if I don't feel like using machine, I want to use more of a free weight style workout, then that's when the belts, the straps, those things kind of come into play. Um, and something else, you know, I've actually used my chair as a form of weight, whether I'm doing weighted dips or pull ups, chin ups. I will actually ratchet strap myself to my chair and use that weight to do my exercise. I will say it does make it more difficult, of course, because of the weight, but also it's a very awkward thing to do when you're picking yourself up, but also you're picking up your chair. And if you're not properly strapped to the chair, it's going to kind of go all over the place. So, really making sure that I'm properly secured to the chair. This is the one and only time that I feel a seatbelt would come in handy. I don't use a seatbelt on my chairs, but if I were to, that would be the only time that I would use it, is to go to pick myself up with my chair attached to me. Um, as a wheelchair user, something else I've done, if I want to do a variation of a row, I will angle the bench so that it's like on an incline, and then I will put a dumbbell on it. And depending on the size and weight of the dumbbell, I will strap the dumbbell to the bench, and then I will basically use that dumbbell as a seat. I will sit on it. You can find some of my videos of me doing this, or actually videos of me doing all these exercises that I've just discussed on, my social media accounts. I've learned to get very creative over the years, and not all the time do they work. I've had a lot of mishaps, a lot of screw ups. I've gotten hurt doing stuff, but that's the risk I've been willing to take. And I understand that to try new things, it's going to be a lot of trial and error. And I feel that everybody can relate to this because you're going to find things in the gym that you don't like. Sometimes we have to do things that we don't like, but other times you have to really decide, is this worth doing this? Is this exercise I'm doing worth doing? Or is there something else better in the gym that I can see better results from? So that is why I'm bringing that up, because I feel that everybody can relate to that. But as a wheelchair user, it has taken me years upon years of trying things and experimenting and saying, you know what? I'm not really getting the stretch that I want to get out of this, whether it be a bicep curl or, like I said, a variation of a row. But you got to get really experimental, be willing to try things, and be prepared to fail, because you're going to fail a lot. That's part of the process. But once you figure out something that works, it's very rewarding to see it play out. And over the years before I started putting my stuff online, I actually used to record myself and I would play it back and I would watch it to see what I could change, what I could do differently to improve. And honestly, this started back in my powerlifting days, because in powerlifting, the goal is to basically have the perfect rep. That's basically the goal. Like, obviously, you're there to lift as much weight as you can possibly lift, but also you want to do it in a safe manner. You want to do it in a manner that you're going to see the best performance, which means doing it over and over. And one of the best ways to see how you're doing is recording yourself and watching it back, and like, what can I do to improve this lift? And I've taken that and I've applied it to all areas of the gym for myself, and it's really paid off. So I highly recommend, if you're not sure how something looks, record yourself. And yeah, it's a little embarrassing at first, but you will get used to it. And it really is worth it. So that's something to keep in mind. Don't be afraid to record yourself. And once again, as a wheelchair user, something else to take into consideration is the gym that you're training out of. I've trained in a lot of different gyms. I've trained in commercial gyms. I've trained in private gyms. I've had home gyms myself. And always the biggest issue is having enough space. I've trained in gyms that have steps, that have a step to get in, a step to get down to another level. And if the owner of the gym is not willing to do something about that, then maybe that gym's not for you. Maybe it's time that you find somewhere else to train out of. But I've trained in a lot of like old school gyms that are not accessible at all. But in those gyms. I've always preferred that. I like the cold, the lots of concrete, the old looking beat up metal equipment. I prefer that look. I prefer a garage style gym just because I love training out of a gym that has a garage door. I had a garage gym at one point and it was my favorite gym. So choosing the best gym that's going to work for you is very crucial. And at one point, I used to hop around where I used to train out of. There was like 6 or 7 gyms within 10 minutes of each other, and honestly, I'd get bored after a few months. I would change it up. So this is more of something that once you've been working out, but don't be afraid to change things up. If you're tired of something, go try a different gym. And I would do that about every 3 or 4 months. And it honestly was like motivating to do. So not only was it like fun to do, but also it motivated me. So don't be afraid to go try something different. You never know. You might find that this gym works better for you. Maybe there's equipment here that you enjoy using more than this gym. And for me, I will actually go out of my way. If I know a gym has a piece of equipment, I will actually go out of my way just to use that piece of equipment. One of the biggest things that I'm finding in gyms now is I don't have a seated curl anymore to be able to do bicep curls with a bar. And that's really been kind of a letdown for me to the point that I'm like debating on buying my own seated curl and putting it in my house just because that is something I really enjoy doing. I really enjoy how it stretches my arm. It feels great. And I will literally drive 20, 30 minutes to a gym if I know that it has something that is going to benefit me. I've done that for competition benches. I've literally switched gyms because there was a gym that had a competition Forza bench. Basically, it was the same bench that I competed on with the one federation that I lifted in. And I literally switched gyms because of that competition bench. Because at that time, I wanted to be lifting on the same bench or the same style of bench that I knew I'd be competing on. And I literally trained on that for that reason. I trained there for that reason. There was a gym that used to have this, it was a really sketchy basement. I actually almost fell down the steps one time with my brother. But I would literally train on this one pad because it was about like 10 inches wide. And I would train on it because it made it more difficult. And I wanted to make it as hard as I possibly could for myself because when I went from that bench pad to a normal bench pad, it was so much easier. So that made me have to really focus on and hone in on my skill even more to become a good presser. But I would go out of my way for that equipment. So these are all things to keep in mind in your journey and embrace it, man. It is so much fun starting out in the gym and getting into that world. So be open minded about it and go into it with just like, let's see where this takes us. Don't be afraid to just go all in with it. I promise you, it'll pay off. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out to me. I've been training for a long time. I have spent many hours in the gym, and I've done a lot of different things and a lot of different gyms. So don't be afraid to reach out. I will more than gladly help you. And I enjoy doing that. I enjoy helping people with that. So I hope this information helps you. I hope it brings you closer to your goals. And I'm so excited that you decided to start. Till next time, guys, adapt, overcome, and conquer. Go hit that workout. Later.